Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. So my background, I spent, I guess, most of my career in finance. Initially, I ran Dell Ventures. Some of you might have heard of it. It's part of Dell Capital, the family office. We cornerstone Stride Capital with Fred Destin and a bunch of other funds like Entrepreneur First, IQ Capital, Local Globe, etc. And I did a bunch of seed Series A investments, including also Vitsi. We co-led the round, which was actually a startup coming out of the Founders Factory Accelerator. So super good memories with that. So since I guess the last 3 years, I decided to do a startup myself. And initially it was a CBD marketplace. Now the CBD market doesn't actually allow for Facebook ads or Google ads. And so we had to become experts on SEO because that's one of the few growth channels. And what happened is a lot of the CBD brands who listed on our marketplace were ranked below our marketplace, and they ended up asking us if we can help them on SEO. And that was actually the beginning of Nuoptima, which is our business services arm as part of Alpha Green Group, which specializes in SEO, but of course we also do email marketing, PPC, and a few other things. But SEO is really our bread and butter, and that's the topic of the workshop today. I guess since we also launched the agency, we basically scaled a few brands, learned that scaling brands is sometimes even easier than scaling a marketplace, and we decided to acquire an Amazon brand early this January, and then we launched 2 more brands, one in sleep, one in pets. Arman is our head of growth. He spent a lot of the budget testing lots of different channels. Probably, yeah, more than, I guess, 1.5 million went on testing various channels. And he will be taking care of the case study, Full Company, which is a spirulina health drink, and walk you through that. I will walk you through just a general intro initially on, what is SEO, why is it important, what are the factors driving a good site, and then towards the end we have a Q&A. So very quickly, as you probably know, PPC is really good if it works and really expensive if it doesn't work. And this chart, which is from a great book called The Cold Start Problem by Andrew Chen, really shows how PPC and SEO work. So SEO, it's a lot of upfront investment, and over time, your customer acquisition costs decline because you basically build up the organic traffic, while PPC, initially it might work really well, then other competitors figure out that yes, that channel works really well, they come into the market, it's obviously an auction-based platform, both Google, Facebook, TikTok, etc., and the customer cost of acquisition goes usually up. There's also the law of shitty click-through by Andrew Chen, which basically says initially it might work really well, and after a while it disappears. And that's not only for PPC, that's actually for many different growth channels. And of course, what you usually want to do as a growth marketeer is to always try new channels. If a channel works, you double down, but at some point there might be a limit how much budget you can put into a growth channel versus SEO. It's actually one of the few channels which is really a channel where you can put a lot of budget in, and basically you get the benefit for the duration of your business pretty much. Now, what are the different key metrics and SEO? And I show that one more time with kind of with a few live sites, but in short, there's a domain authority or domain rating, it's called. It's a synthetic number, which is usually, depending on what tool you use to analyze SEO. So this is Ahrefs, calls domain rating. I think SEMrush calls it domain authority. And what it basically means is that how good is your domain in terms of backlinks and kind of power in the eyes of Google. And since we are all here, let's say, to please Google, this is a very important metric. Now, the more unique backlinks you have. So referring domains is the unique backlinks versus backlinks is basically referring domains, but it then also counts any duplicate backlinks. Backlinks, just to kind of explain what it is basically a hyperlink from another site to your site. And there are various forms of backlinks. There is obviously a sponsored backlink. Let's say you asked a publisher and you pay the publisher to put it there, and it's kind of almost like an ad on their site. And that you find a lot with, you know, Time Out or Hearst, various other media publications, and they might actually take it down later on. Or you also have kind of do follow, no follow backlinks, which basically come from genuine content on another site, giving you a backlink. Very similar to if you write academic papers, you obviously reference other academia, and that's the same here. In fact, Google's very first algorithm, when the company was founded, was actually created based on ranking sites on the basis of how many other sites rank to that respective site, and that determined the quality of the site and therefore the ranking of the site. Now, that is still very, very important. And then there is a second big component, which is keywords. And keywords is really how much good content there is on your site. And keywords doesn't mean, you know, you count all the different words on your site, but it actually means how many different keywords are there and how many different search queries are answered by your site and by your content, which relate to the search queries people are Googling, right? And the more content you have, the more keywords are being indexed. Now, important to say is that writing just normal, big, long content without structuring it, without answering a certain specific question on Google will not make your site rank. And that's why it's very, very important to know how to actually structure the content and to make sure that your content is actually better than the content you find on other websites. And basically, the keywords and the backlinks ultimately result in how much traffic you get, because the higher your site ranks, the more traffic you get. And obviously, the higher your site ranks for higher searched keywords, or basically higher volume search keywords, the more traffic you get. And obviously, there are some niches which have a lot of search content, search traffic, such as obviously CBD was one of them. Gambling is another one. And then there are some maybe in like a very, very niche, some super niche B2B, you know, I don't know, B2B cybersecurity, but very, very niche. There might be actually fewer people searching it because it might be a solution just for huge enterprises. And so nobody actually knows about it and therefore nobody Googles it. That's a very rare case where maybe SEO doesn't actually work. But usually you have a lot of search for a lot of different keywords. And it's just then about how do you actually find out what are the keywords which convert the visitor to then being a customer as well. I mentioned that briefly. So I mentioned backlinks, I mentioned content. There are two more factors, which are behavioral factors and tag factors. Now, behavioral factors are things such as how long is a person staying on your site? And if you've probably read the kind of latest marketing trends, video is becoming a huge channel, and video is also really, really good for your SEO. Why is video really good for SEO? Well, it makes the visitor on your site to stay actually on the site because the visitor looks and watches your video. That counts towards the behavioral factor contribution, and therefore the bounce is much later. And Google then knows that people actually spend a lot of time on your site, and therefore the site must be a quality site, and therefore it has to rank higher than the other sites. And then finally, probably around only like a 10% contribution, which is usually communicated by lots of other people as like a very, very big thing, is the technical aspects of SEO. Now, obviously, your site can be really broken and super, super slow. But if your site is pretty decent, you actually don't need to worry too much. However, if you want to be, ticking all the different boxes, then tech is also important. That can be, of course, loading site, user experience, cross-linking to like have lots of different landing pages who interlink with lots of your blog pages, etc., etc., etc. And of course, if the UX is really, really bad, that will affect the time, how long the person stays on your site as well. And that basically reduces one of the behavioral factors as well. So that's why it's kind of all interrelated, especially content, behavioral, and tech. And backlinks is kind of one of the almost solo things you want to take care of. Just going back to kind of like the general gist. We started writing content for the agency. As you can see, we started up kind of like mid-February. We wrote, I don't know, like probably 20,000 words of content. So around here. And then we said, okay, let's write way more. And obviously our positioning of the business services arm there were a few strategies behind. One was we were looking to acquire Amazon brands, and we used the content of our agency to get Amazon brands to read the content. And then there was a call to action to fill out a type form for them to say, you know, if they're interested to sell, what is their revenue, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe some of you have heard about FBA, Amazon aggregators, aggregators. Now, if we Google that, there is an ad here, there is an ad here, there is an ad here, and we are organically #1, right? And then obviously we put ourselves as an aggregator straight after Thrasio. They raised 3.4 billion. That's the call to action, and that's how we absorb all the traffic, while everybody else is paying probably, I don't know, £5 per CPC, because everybody, as you can see, is bidding for the same keyword here. So now going back, so we started writing content, and that's basically correlated to the traffic, which in, I guess, 3 months, we went from 0 to 6,500 unique visitors. And then equally, we've started doing backlinks. Now backlinks can be organic from your PR. So that's when you do a fundraising announcement, but they also can be where you build up a very good base of publishers who can then basically publish your content with a backlink. And what's very, very important is you really want as many publishers with as high as possible domain authority to publish your content and give you a backlink, because that in turn boosts your own domain authority, right? And so that's basically either you or your marketing team or your partnership manager going out to all the different publishers and say, hey, we publish a content piece on your site, but then we can also publish in return a piece on our site and give you a backlink back. That's kind of how it used to be in old school days. Nowadays, it's also about sometimes you actually pay a very small fee, but because you produce actually really, really good content, you basically produce a lot of good content for free for their site, and they basically return the favor by giving you a backlink back. And so, of course, we build up a huge database of backlinks after scaling Alpha Green IO to be the largest marketplace in Europe, also now localized for 11 different countries and localized SEO, and obviously now Nuoptima and the different other brands. Cool. I pass over to Aman, and he can walk you through the case study of Full Company, which is a spirulina health drink. So let me, okay, Aman, you can share your screen, right?
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. Do you have any questions so far? If you want to ping that in the chat, we can start to walk through them, or I can bring them up in the case study as well. Okay. Can everyone see my screen? Okay, I see some nods. Awesome, cool. So let me go back a little bit.
Sorry, really quickly, I think we've got a question from Sam.
There we go. When you change your URLs like you did, how can you track the page ranking improvements in the same place? I'm doing it in GA tracking. Choose separate URL change. What's content good place? So for Sam, it's 20K words of content a good place to kickstart? Yeah, for sure. When we work with clients, we generally start at like around 20 to 15K words a month. And that gives us the results to see something within 2 to 3 to 4 months. So that's the answer to Rick as well. It generally takes 1 to 3 months to see results. And then for a page to get indexed, it really depends. You can do clever things such as pushing certain URLs to the site index map quicker. Or you can push, say, a URL slug /blog and every URL there afterwards into a sitemap separately, which is a really, really big advantage. And we did that with a couple brands, and they were able to get indexed a lot faster. Miguel, when you change a URL slug like you did, how can you track the page ranking improvements? We normally never change URL slugs. It was just a really bad mistake on our end. So it becomes quite difficult. We sort of have to let it re-index, let it rechange, and just track it manually. And Aurora, I'll come to your question very shortly, but generally content at least 16,000, 20,000 words a month is what we think is a good investment to be making. And you want to do that consistently for at least 6 months.
Yeah, and it also depends really on the niche you operate in, right? So as I mentioned, CBD is a highly competitive niche where SEO is one of the few marketing channels which actually work. So everybody there, if they really want to compete, they write 60, 70, 80,000 words per month. Equally, we looked at, for example, trademarks. As a trademark lawyer, funny enough, you actually do search a lot for trademarks, but nobody in the trademark law world does any SEO. So you can do 10,000 keywords per month, and you will probably rank on page 1 after 2-3 months, getting all the requests to, you know, do trademark law services.
Yep. Awesome. So yeah, I mean, feel free to just keep sending questions in. I will get through to them maybe at the end of the case study. But as you send them in, I'll keep an eye on them. So I'll walk through a case study. It's a company called Full. They're the first spirulina drinks brand, I think, more or less ever to exist, except from Innocent Smoothie. So it's actually Innocent Spirulina drinks. There's Athletic Greens. Press came out very recently. And then eventually Full is somewhere over here. And Full launched out of, the two founders were out of an MBA from INSEAD. They did some really cool tech to essentially extract the spirulina, and their version of the drink is the first ever there is. And spirulina drink as a keyword is super low volume, and that's because the format never existed before they started their product. So what that means is spirulina existed as a powder before. You could get it in tablets, but you just couldn't find it in a pre-made canned drink, which is a really interesting scenario because you effectively have no sort of search awareness for that consumer or for that product line. And it's a big game of creating the category, defining the category, and also appearing for all the search terms of anyone that might consider purchasing that type of format. And it was a really interesting scenario where we took them from 0 to 13.5K monthly visitors in 4 months, which is incredibly fast, even for us. So you can see with the metrics that Alexi explained earlier with domain rating, it's fairly low, but they got, say, 9,200 organic keywords ranked. And okay, now it's 14,000. I need to update the case studies again. And you can see the graphs. It looks absolutely crazy. If I go to 1 year, you can see it absolutely skyrocketing up. So this case study, I really want to explain to you guys what we did to make these results appear the way they are, and how we think about SEO and how we think about content strategy when it comes to appeasing Google. So the first thing we do, we sort of look for this Venn diagram of keywords your ICP or your ideal customer persona uses, keyword difficulty, and keyword search volume. So this basically entailed us getting a lot of decks from Full Company and sitting down with them and trying to understand the spirulina place. Like, they have obviously been doing this for 2 years, longer than we have in terms of their niche. So we took a few hours to really understand what are the considerations of the consumer, where are they in the funnel, where do we want to hit them? And then we married this up with keyword difficulty and keyword search volume. So in all the SEO tools available, you can do lots of cool searches of all the keywords that exist. For example, let's say antioxidant drink, healthy drink, soft drink, spirulina drink. And we can get a bunch of keywords going out. So for example, soft drinks has 5,400 search volume in the UK. And that's what you can do across any keyword you would like to try. And this is a really good way for you, firstly, when you're early on, to just understand the TAM. So you could use this exercise to have another version of market sizing, for example. But you can also use this to find smaller and similar markets close to your product or semantically relevant to your product. So we did this strategy first. We sort of married it up with the ICP, and we were able to come to, say, a shortlist. And I'll very quickly screen a shortlist for you. There's a big spreadsheet here. And it's basically us exporting a bunch of keywords. Now, generally what SEO agencies will do is they'll just like pick a keyword, say energy drinks healthy, and they'll just start creating an article for it and start trying to rank it. And that's kind of where we start to disappear from what other people do and where our thinking changes. We try to appease this idea of keyword clusters. So generally the perfect keyword you want to rank for. So for example, if I scrolled up and I looked at straight teeth direct, so your perfect keyword I know is like, invisible braces, for example. That's probably a very competitive keyword. There's a lot of people bidding on PPC for that. There is a hell of a lot of competitors in, say, the whitening and the braces space. So trying to rank for that keyword on day one is very unlikely. So you actually need to signal to Google that you deserve to be ranked for that keyword. You can create the best blog piece you ever wanted to. It still wouldn't rank because everyone else above you has, one, a higher domain rating, but two, and this is the factor we like to think about, is topical authority. Topical authority in our eyes is how you signal to Google that you're an expert in your field. You deserve to be trusted. So for example, alphagreen.io, we're topically an authority in CBD. If we were to try and rank for keywords that were related to, I don't know, braces, for example, it wouldn't work. We're not topically authority in that space. We don't have a semantically similar set of keywords similar to that target keyword. So that means we couldn't rank for it. So instead, we want to increase topical authority as fast as possible, which means we need to get pages ranking for similar keywords. And that's where we get the clustering strategy. So say, for example, your keyword is spirulina drink. We could rank for that. Maybe it's quite difficult right now, but we can start ranking for similar keywords that are semantically, relevant, and the consumer might also Google. So antioxidant drink, healthy soft drink, best morning drink, hangover drinks. All these keywords are not the keywords you want today, but it's the keywords that will help you get there. And so the way we think about it is we took, say, thousands of drink related keywords. We found 173 that fit that first Venn diagram. And that Venn diagram being this one over here. So 173 fell into this spot. And then we started to cluster them. So we started thinking, okay, which one of these keywords actually, they all just kind of become antioxidant keyword at some level. Which one of these keywords will become healthy soft drink? And when you do that, you have a really good idea of what the persona of the consumer is and what they're Googling to do with that general cluster. So for example, if I look, I'm gonna zoom in for you guys. So healthy soft drinks, we found 11 keywords, and it was healthy alternatives to soft drinks healthy low calorie soft drinks, non-carbonated soft drinks healthy soft drinks during pregnancy. All these bits we think we can put into one piece called healthy soft drinks, and we can hit all those points the consumer is searching about. We can fulfill search intent for everything the consumer is Googling right now and everything they're probably going to Google in 2 or 3 steps. And this way we create a really, really good piece, a content piece that is extremely relevant to the consumer. It fits their consumer persona and it answers their search intent for what they asked just now and more. And if we do that on a scale of, say, 7, 8 clusters, it helps the whole target keyword raise in ranking too. Does anyone have any questions on this part so far? Where did you get the list of keywords? So we used a tool called Ahrefs, it's ahrefs.com. There's also tools called SEMrush. You can actually get a trial for like $1 or $2 and start it for 7 days. So it's fairly cheap to access. Then it's a few £100 a month. Every SEO agency uses this tool. That's the honest truth of it. But the difference is not the tool, it's the person using it and how you interpret and how you start to analyze the results and come up with theses around how can you help that page rank faster. And I'm happy to share those links. I should just send now, Ahrefs.com, semrush.com. How specific does topical thread need to be? Yeah, this is where the science and SEO and art all come together in one. There's no direct answer to say, why do we choose antioxidant drink over some other sort of keyword? We did it based on what we understood from the ICP of full company. We did it from what we understood of what the consumer likes to think about. And then you generally have an idea of where that semantically relevant keyword bunch lies. So you kind of want to be specific as much as possible, but you also want to balance that with keyword difficulty. You don't want to be going for a very similar topic, which is very hard to rank for, because then that will make all your efforts kind of wasted again. Cool. So for example, I'll show you some blog pieces now, actually, just so you understand what we're doing.
Yeah, maybe one thing to add is, so on the topic of authority and just generally how you structure and plan content. Obviously, the more budget you have, the more content you can do, the more keywords you can cover straight away. But I think one of the things we do is really prioritizing, you know, where is the search volume the highest and maybe the keyword difficulty the lowest. So you start ranking, you start attracting traffic. Google sees you starting to go up the ranks, and then you start kind of hitting the higher difficulty level at keywords as well. Yeah,
it's definitely similar to a sort of game in the sense where you need to keep winning small wins to level up. What differentiates is how good, you know, which fights do you want to pick is what we're really good at doing internally. So I picked a blog piece. It's called 12 Best Drinks for a Hangover. And if you scroll down, we started getting these pages ranking really well, as you saw in that first graph over here. And we're good at that. And then the full company came back and said, look, we got some blog pieces ranking, and okay, how do I translate this back into ROI and into sales? And it's a really good question. It's a question that generally is too early to ask at 3 months time, but given the traffic results we saw, we were able to start pushing conversion elements very quickly. So if you scroll on this blog page, you'll see a lot of pictures of their drink. So, and then you'll also see eventually some cool conversion blocks. So try sparkling spirulina drink. And if you scroll down a bit further, you might see another drink. There's some FAQs, and you'll also see a product block, which we created. And the whole point of this is we were trying to drive as much blog traffic back to the product page as possible. And so what this looks like is something over here. So again, so SEO, they generally do the content, they stop. Because we do their email marketing for full, we were able to take a sort of a full funnel approach to this. So we had native contextual conversion blocks. So, you know, putting these conversion blocks within the blog page, and we were able to do contextual pop-ups. And what that means is for every high ranking blog page, and I consider that to be something that's getting over 50 to 100 page views per week, I created a unique pop-up for. So for example, the 12 Best Drinks for Hangover had Fight Your Hangover Spirulina, click to learn more. I'm not asking for an email. I'm not asking for third-party data. I'm just trying to push the consumer or incentivize the consumer to push down to the next part of the funnel, which in this scenario was going to the product page. With the conversion blocks, with the pop-ups, you start to see a really interesting effect. And I know it's quite small, but you see the page views of people landing on the blog page, but then visiting the product page rapidly increasing. And this is us with no additional traffic on the product page. So we're just simply trying to retarget and re-push that traffic across. Now, what's really cool is it does two things. One, it makes full money, which is awesome. But two, it's signaling to Google another behavioral factor that the consumers or the visitors on this page are really enjoying reading. It's answered their search intent. And it's going to now push the product page up higher and higher. So now we're ranking spirulina drinks position 6, best spirulina brand position 1, top spirulina brand position 1. And this is a brand that came up, let's say 4 months ago, out of the radar. and is now completely dominating the spirulina space. And I fully expect, with a few bits of influencer gifting and some retail strategy, that they will easily become the top spirulina brand in the UK within, say, 6 months. And this, by the way, is from 15K words a month, I think, or 16K words a month content writing. So this is not a crazy budget. This is just what happens when you have a very good niche and you're able to choose very topically relevant clusters to work with. Awesome.
Thank you. Just thinking in the interest of time, I know we've got 5 more minutes. Do we have, unless you have more slides to present, do we have any other questions from the call? I know we've had quite a few in the chat, but I don't know if they've all been covered yet.
Yeah, I think there's one saying how different is a topic cluster from a pillar page. So I guess pillar page is usually very important. It's usually a very long page. Say, let's say the ultimate guide to fundraising or the ultimate guide to acquiring an Amazon brand. So we have that. And then topic cluster, what it usually means is basically like, again, it might be not like a huge content page, but it might be a content page with lots of other links to other articles. Now, we don't have cluster pages as such, but what we usually do is every single page we write has recommended articles at the bottom and also has links to other articles on our site in the actual article as well. So I would say, you know, that's really working for us. I don't think one has to kind of like have a separate cluster page. And then, yeah, pillar pages are actually quite important. What we also do with pillar pages is we try to create landings for really high search volume where we know we can really drive conversion straight away. Say, for example, our Amazon PPC page, I think we're currently redoing it at the moment, is initially a really nice page, which is optimized for conversion. But then at the bottom, you have just more text explaining much more about the actual topic as well. And so that page, not only it's optimized for conversion, but it also will rank over time really well in Google.
Miguel, to rank well on Google for a keyword, should we focus on optimizing the whole website or specific pages? SEO kind of has to require a holistic strategy. That is not meant to answer your question. It's meant to say it depends, is the honest answer. Certain keywords, if they're low difficulty, low search volume, you can probably get away with making a single landing page that has very good content and it will rank. If in another scenario you had a very high difficulty keyword, you would need to create clusters around it, and therefore you'd need to be optimizing a lot more than one page. Should you have a different SEO strategy for mobile? No, but you want to make sure your content is really readable on mobile. You want to make sure everything is loading very quickly. You want to make sure the margins are nice. You want to make sure all the behavioral factors are ticked off. So that means responsive pages, etc. Nick, what are your thoughts on investing in digital PR? For sure, PR is the best backlinks you can get. Generally, for startups and maybe in this group, you're probably going to get a bunch of digital PR from your fundraising announcements, which is a really nice boost. If you can create linkable assets, and those are assets which journalists want to talk about, that's even better. And you can have backlinks pushing into a very linkable asset, and then you distributing that SEO juice thereafter. But generally, you also want to think about, Forbes is a great, PR piece, but it's not very topically relevant to, say, London home rental companies. So you kind of need to marry off your PR with your topical authority.
Yeah, and what's really important is when you do PR, you really want to have already quite a bit of content on your site. As Aman said, then you can ask the journalist to rank or to link it to one of the sites will convert really well for you, rather than just to your homepage, right? Because obviously your homepage will rank anyway quite well.
Awesome. And in terms of, I mean, like generally people ask us about like how much does it cost to start SEO? It's usually a good question we get. Again, we recommend at least like 15, 20K words a month. We generally start around 3K packages. And when we start SEO projects for our own, sites, when we're doing tests, etc., we run them for 6 months at least to see results. So it's a sort of a long-term mindset strategy you need to have when it comes to SEO. And that's the sort of pricing and, indicative things you're looking at. If you were to try and build out an SEO team in-house, which is definitely a good idea when you're, say, like in scale-up mode, for example, a typical team looks like you had a head of SEO, you then have a lead editor, and then you have a couple content writers at least. And then you might also have one person solely for backlinks. So an in-house SEO team can really be, say, 5 or 6 people, especially if you want a very good head of SEO. They're going to want content writers beneath them and backlink builders beneath them. Otherwise, they can't really execute on their goals.
Thank you for that. So I think we've got one more question. Which aspect would you say is the most important to optimize? For example, keywords, content, or backlinks?
Yeah, I guess as we mentioned, right, keywords is really the number one thing, which is basically your content, followed by backlinks, followed by tech, and tech is then split into really kind of tech and then behavioral factors, i.e., do you have videos on it? Is your UX really well optimized, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, it's really about writing really good content, structuring it really well, and then Google will rank you higher. And of course, the better content you have, the more reason for other sites to reference you on their site as well. And that's how you get also organic backlinks as well. So basically get two things for one. Aman just shared also the Calendly link. If anybody has more questions and wants to jump on a call, please book time.